All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the stream. And we've got a few people on the chat. Just having a look over at the chat. We've got Clinton there. We've got some other people here as well. So feel free to say hi and join in the conversation or ask any questions or whatever you might have. You might notice that I've actually changed here. I'm not using my my green screen, so you get to see basically. Oops, hang on, some drop frames. You get to see the mess that is my home office. I've got my lights on to make it a little bit fancier. So, okay, what we're going to do today is we're going to continue on with a Xamarin UI challenge, which we were doing last week because Fridays is when we do UI challenges. So hopefully we can get through this today. We'll see how we go. And of course, if you've got any, Clinton says, nice camera, looks good. The lights look good. I don't look so good. But anyway, I've got a bit of a cold today, so my apologies. All right, let's just start off doing a little bit of a recap of where we're at. So I'll switch over to my desktop here and I'll put a little bit of music on. Perhaps not a little bit too loud. All right, first of all, let's have a look at the design that we're doing. So this is a design that we find over on Dribble, as I find all the nice designs there. So this one is by a guy called Rick Waalders, and it's just a really nice design that does some pop downs and a bit of flipping and some nice little animations that we have. So last week we did a little bit of work on this. So let's have a look at where we're up to on this. So I'll go ahead and I'll run what we have from last week. And I should mention as well, if you are after the code, where I'll be putting it is github.com, what's it called? Unzone. So this is basically where I'll publish the code to when we finish today. Alrighty, so let's go back, have a look at where we are at with this design. Okay, so let's spin this up. I'm just spinning it under UWP. So as you can see, we're at a pretty early stage here, but what we did do last session was we got some of the basics of this pop down working. So you can see when I click on a cell here, it basically animates in these various elements down the bottom. And also if we hit the delete button, it does a nice little flip around. And if we say, are we sure? No, it sort of flips us back there. So, so we've got the basics of this. Now, what I'd like to do in today, there's a few things. I've written myself a little to-do list of what we want to do. So we're first of all going to have a bit of a review of how we do what we've done. Do a little bit of refactoring of the layouts inside of here as well. We're going to put some fonts, images and styles to make it look a little bit nicer. Now, what you notice in the design is that there is also this cool little, if we come back here, there's this cool little button that pops up from the bottom, this little close button that comes in. Let's just wait for it. Okay, flies in from the bottom there. So we'll implement that. Also, you notice that when something deletes, it sort of pops up and does a little bounce as it actually deletes a cell. We'll do that. And also at the moment, we don't have any sort of different types of cells. So we'll add in a U cell there. So basically that big white cell. And we'll use something like a data template selector to do that. All right, so that's what we're after. Let's just quickly have a look at the basics of the layout as we have it. I'll go over to my main page here. So what we're using here is we're using an absolute layout in order to provide our layout essentially. We have something called a drop-down container. I want to change the structure of this in a moment, but the drop-down container is basically that. Oops, that's not the one I'm after. It's basically this this section here that pops down, okay, and then sort of disappears again. So it's got two sides. So it's got the front side and the back side. Cheeky. So that's basically what we're flipping between. Okay. Apart from that, it's pretty standard sort of layout inside of there. All right, what I'll do quickly is let me just stop this and just change the animation speed down a little bit so we can see some of the things that it's doing. So I'll go and set our animation speed to slow down a little. And so here you can see, there's a little bit of complexity that's going on when this cell opens up. So first of all, when we click on this, what you'll notice is these sections here, they animate in the opacity and also the translation to sort of swing them in. And when we hit the delete, it closes them back up, flips it around. Okay. And if we say no and we go back, see it does a little flip there and then brings that cell back in. So that's what we're working with at the moment. I'm going to start off with a little bit of refactoring because at the moment, both sides of this pop-up are in the same container, but I think I'd like to change that a little bit so that they're actually independent objects that we sort of flip in and flip out. Let me just adjust that music down a little bit. All right, cool. I'll set my animation speed back to 300. Seems about right. And let's start off with refactoring this main page. Okay, because at the moment there's a bit of complex layout here about how it lays this out. I'd like to sort of refactor that out, make it a little bit nicer. And also the flipping itself is just sort of done behind a button click. So we'll create a method for that just to make it a little bit easier to work with as well. All right, and there's a bit of duplicated code in here also. All right, so let's come over here, and the first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of this container that sits around the front side and the back side. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of that, and that's going to cause us some issues, no doubt, with our code. I'll probably have broken a lot of stuff here. So this is front side. I'm going to give these an explicit height as well while I'm here, just to make that a little bit easier to work with. And also on the back side as well, give these an explicit height. All right, cool. Now let's have a look at what we've broken over here. No doubt lots and lots of stuff. Okay. So first of all, we don't have a drop-down container anymore. What we have is we've got two individual cells that we're going to be using here. So let's create ourselves a bit of a method here, and the idea of this method is just to position things where they need to be, because we need to position both the front side and the back side so as when we do a translation or we do a flip, it'll work a little bit nicer. So let's create ourselves a method, position dropdown. And what we'll do is we'll take into position dropdown, basically the element that we want to position and also the parent of it as well, right? So, so the parent of this is going to be our element. So that's where we're positioning it relative to. Okay. In fact, I might just create this method first of all. Generate this method. And then what we'll take in is we'll take a visual element, which is our parent, and we'll take in another visual element. So, visual element is sort of like the root of all things. And here we'll have our drop down. Okay. And we'll come back up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, well, let's position the front side. Actually, what did I do? I did parent first. I did parent first. So let's, the parent is the element. Okay, so that's the element that we clicked on. So the time cell, and then the thing that we want to position, all right, which is our front side. And we'll grab this code here and we'll sort of refactor this a little bit into this method. All right, so what we want to do in here, let's go and create ourselves like we basically want to create ourselves an absolute position this in the absolute layout at the correct place. All right, so we'll say, first of all, we'll go absolute layout, dot layout flags, set layout flags, and we're going to set the layout flags for the drop down, right? And we'll say absolute layout dot none, because we're going to position this exactly, right? And that's kind of important because we want it to appear directly over the existing cell. I'll just pop that font up a little bit here, and maybe we'll hide that out of the way. Cool. Now we want to set the layout bounds. We want to set the layout bounds for our drop down, and we'll have the drop down contain a rectangle. So this is going to be a rectangle, and we're going to say we want to position this at, let me put this on one line, position it at 0. We want to go and get the bounds of the top of the parent. So we'll say parents.bound.top. We want it to be as wide as the screen. So this dot width, okay? And then what we want to do finally is we want to basically make the rectangle as high as the drop down itself. So we'll say drop down dot height. All right, something like that. All right, so that's a little bit nicer there. So that positions our drop down. Let's go and have a look, because there's another one that we want to position as well. So it's not only that one, we also want to position the backside. So that's a good reason to put it into a method. Okay, so what's it called? The backside? Backside. There we go. Okay, so now we will have positioned those two elements exactly where they need to be. Position the overlay. Actually, let's put that up there. Position the drop downs. Okay, now there'll be some other code that's broken here as well. Let's come down here and have a look at this. So this is our delete tap gesture recognizer. This is called when somebody hits the delete and we want to flip it across to the other side. So we'll go ahead and change that as well. So what we'll do is we'll create ourselves a flip method, right? Because at the moment this code is duplicated, so we don't want that. So let's, and we may very well want to await this task as well, right? So we're going to make it, well, this animation. So we're going to make it an async task, and we'll say, let's go and flip from, and we'll provide it with two things here. Visual element, where we're going from, and then another visual element, which is where we're going to. Okay, so where we're flipping from, flipping to. So we pretty much want this similar sort of code that we have here. Probably a few adjustments we might want to make. So the very first thing we want to do is we want to say, okay, let's get the from element. So where we're rotating from, we're going to rotate that around to -90. So that's going to basically bring it around so that it's on edge. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to get the next bit that's going to flip in, so the back side of it, to be positioned in the right place or to have its correct rotation. So we'll set its rotation to 90. So that's 90 degrees to the front of the device, I suppose. So so it's on end. Let's say, so we'll get rid of that and we'll say front side. So that's no longer the front side. This is, we want to say the to is visible. Make sure that that's visible. We want to make sure that the from is not visible, right? So we've flipped it 90 degrees. We're then making what we're going to visible, what we're going from invisible. And then we want to go and rotate our to into 0. So basically swing it back around. And we've got a little bit of an easing in there as well. Hey, why Bad Dragon? How you doing? Happy Friday. Or at least it's Friday here in Australia. All right. Okay, so now what we can do is we can get rid of all this code here, right? And we can say, basically, we want to flip, and we want to wait for this as well. Right? So we want to wait for the animation to finish. So we'll await flipping from our, what's our front panel called? Actually, this is the no. So the no, let me just hang on a second. Yeah, cool. Let's do this one first. So the delete is when we're flipping across to the delete cell. Okay, so that's probably a better one to do as a starting point. So let's do this. We want to go and close down the drop downs. Why Bad Dragon? Good, just relaxing. Kids finally went to bed. Oh, I know how you feel. My wife's been away for a week, and so I've been solo parenting, and that's tough work. So respect to all the carers out there. Still Thursday though. Ah, well, that means you've got another day to finish off whatever work you have to do, I suppose. All right. So we're hitting the delete button. When we hit the delete button, this is where we want to go and flip, okay, which is what this code here is doing. And we want to flip from our front side, I suppose. Right. And we want to flip across to our back side. I think that's about right. Okay. Now, when they hit the no button, this is where we want to flip back to the front. So in here, we want to say flip, and we want to go from the back side back to the front side. And I think that's about what we're after. And then close the panel. All right. Before we go any further, let's just see how badly I've broken this. Give this a build. Check if we're still working. Build succeeded. That's a good sign. I think I'm dropping a few frames. So, Why Bad Dragon says, have you done the part of removing from the list yet? Not sure how long you've been live. No, I've only been live for a few minutes. So I haven't done it yet. Here's my strategy. We're going to refactor the layouts. That's what I'm doing at the moment. We did a bit of a review of where we're up to. Refactor the layouts, and then we're gonna do this delete item animation as we go through. So I just want to sort of get things in the right place before I do that. All right. Let me have a look here. Let's see what we've got. Let me go ahead and run this. I expect we'll break some stuff. Okay, so that looks about right. We do a delete. Okay, are we sure? No, we're back. Okay, cool. So that seems to be working fine there. One of the things I like about the animations as well is you can actually sort of interrupt them, which is kind of nice too. I can sort of interrupt them as they're going through. Okay, so we've got the basics there of positioning the elements. We've done the flip, so that's got rid of a bit of duplicate code, which is nice. What else have we got? We've got the background. Now at the moment, when we tap on the background, we're closing that. We'll implement the close button a little bit later on. We've got our open, position our drop down. So yeah, it's kind of looking a little bit nice. Hey, JAMESMONTEMAGNO. Welcome. Good to see you here. All right, we've just been doing a little bit of refactoring, James, just to tidy this up a little bit before we go crazy. And I'll just clean up a little bit of code here. All right, So I think that's probably enough refactoring at the moment. It just sort of tidies it up a little bit. That's sort of generally the strategy that I use. I normally will go and implement something pretty poorly, and then I'll come back when I know what I want to do and then refactor it how I'm after. President Not Sure here as well. Bit of monkey emotes going on. I've got to get some emotes and some subscriber badges, which I haven't done yet. All right, are we sure? Yes, it's doing nothing. That's basically closing it down. Beautiful. Okay, what do we want to tackle next? Okay, so we've done a little bit of refactoring there. We'll do some more as we go through. Okay, fonts, images, and styles. Okay, so this old chestnut, getting fonts in. It's still kind of painful for me to get fonts into an application, I will admit. I'm sure the team's working on it. Now, if I was working on a Mac, I could probably use Mfractor, which has some great tools, but I'm not. And I'm not aware of any tools that will sort of bring them in. Okay, so we've got our design here. So the font that we're going to use, I had a look at this. Open Sans seems to be a pretty good match, you know, not too bad. So we'll use Open Sans for this. I also just created some images over here for the various elements. So we'll go ahead and we'll export those in a moment. But first of all, let's bring in our fonts. So Open Sans, so I downloaded Open Sans, and I think what we're after is probably a bold, a regular, and a light. Okay, so I'm basically going to get these elements, I'm going to drag them into my solution folders in the right places. So if we go and make sure our application's stopped, where do these go? This is the bit. Okay, so Android is going to go into assets. So we'll grab bold, we'll grab regular, and light. I'll drag those into my assets folder, because that's where they live in Android. Now under iOS, they're going to go under resources. So we want our bold, our light, and our regular. Drag them under resources. Now, when you're doing iOS, so Why Bad Dragon says Open Sans is the main font we use for your app at work. Yeah, it's actually a really nice font. It's just kind of nice and clean. So yeah, I like it as well. It's kind of if I don't know what font I want to use and I don't want to use the system font for some reason, it's kind of where what I generally use. All right, that was what I was going to say. I was going to say that in order to get our fonts into iOS, we also need to add them into the info P list. Adam Pedley has a good blog post from a while ago, actually. Custom fonts in Xamarin.Forms, where he sort of goes through the steps in this. So if anyone's curious, I'll just post that out into the chat window. It's pretty cool. It's actually a really good way of describing it. So Android goes in your assets, iOS goes in your resources folder. I think we got a follow. Desco, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us. I think my feed's a little bit out of time here. Okay, anyway, thank you so much for the follow, and welcome. If you've got any questions, let me know. All right, so the other thing we need to do is we need to go into our info P list. Jingle, where's the jingle? Man, I've got to sort out this jingle. Okay, what President Not Sure is talking about is there's a little jingle which Len Stevens made for me. Let me let me deal with this. Audio's hard. All right. Yeah, let's see if we can hear this jingle.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
I need a compressor. Is my audio not coming through well? So Clinton is one of the developers here in Melbourne. He also does a lot of audio stuff. So maybe what I need to do, Clinton, is get you over to my house and you can teach me some audio stuff. President, not sure you feel better. It's always better having a jingle. All right, let's go and put this into our info P list. So fortunately, this blog post actually, you'll be down. Oh yeah, you're not in Melbourne anymore. You're in Brisbane, aren't you? I shouldn't say that. You're somewhere in Australia. Down in 2 months, cool. We'll drop on by and help me out with my audio problems. Okay, app fonts in our info P list. Boop, 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 boop. Info P list, here we are. I don't know anyone who JAMESMONTEMAGNO. Some biddies. Thank you, James. Appreciate it. Cheer shared rewards to 3 others in chat. I don't know what that means. But thank you so much. All right. So what do we want to do in here? We basically want to go and put this in here. Where does it go? James, do we have anything that we're working on to make bringing fonts easier? Oh my goodness. Clinton just cheered some bits as well. 1,000 bits. Thank you, sir. Bit war. No, I appreciate it. So I haven't set it up yet. But what I want to do is I want to, any sort of bits or anything like that, actually go and put those out to a charity, I think. You know, I don't need the money, so I'd prefer to put them out to a charity, but I haven't set it up yet. So, yeah. All right. What was I doing? It's so easy to get derailed when you're talking. Okay. So, we want to put this in. Some balloons, bit of pride going on there, James. Lovely. Where does this go? Does it go here? Sure, why not? Let's try it. So we got bold, regular, and we're also going to have a light in here as well. Okay, cool. So we've got those 3 elements in there, so that should probably work. And we've got our fonts. They just go into UWP. Did I drag them in? I don't think I did yet. So that goes into our assets folder. Beautiful. Okay, cool. So now we've got some fonts. We can probably then start talking a bit about sort of styling some of our application as well. And this is always sort of, I don't know, I feel like there's a real opportunity for better dev tools here. Because this is always a little bit laborious. PHIMESTUDIO.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
Thank you for the follow, sir. Or ma'am. There's the jingle. Beautiful. All right, one other thing I wanted to grab out of Adam Pedley's thing is basically this, setting up our... It is a long jingle for a follow, yeah. I just don't have anything better at the moment, James. I need something a little bit more punchy, I agree. All right, so let's set up our font families. So what we have is we've got a resource dictionary. Oh, you don't want that. This is in a resource dictionary. And we're basically saying, okay, if I want the bold font, it's using Open Sans Bold. You notice that, you know, on each of the platforms, it's specified a little bit different. We've got our normal font. Let's call this maybe our regular font. And then we'll add another one in for our light font. And for our light font, the font name is Light Open Sans Light.ttf, and Now, I think James mentioned that maybe Clancy's doing something with fonts. 4.1. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, that'll just save a bunch of time. All right, so now that we have our fonts, let's go and apply some of these styles. So we'll create ourselves a style, and we'll have this for our name label style, and this is going to target a label. Let me bring this up the screen some. Okay, so we've got a couple of setters here. So we want to, we basically want to set up our font family. So this is going to then come from our static resource. My goodness, when's the last time I wrote a setter? So it's properties of font family, I think. Is that how we do it? Yeah, that's right. And then our value, right? And so that's going to come from our static resource. So our font family for our name label is probably going to be like our regular font. Okay. Our font size. Let's just grab something and see what we have. In fact, what we could be doing now is we could Bad Dragon. You can do a region name. I saw it. Oh, maybe it's because you said app.xaml. Maybe it thinks it's a URL. Okay, we'll go and throw that in a second. So we're going to set our font size. Value equals say 20, and we'll set our text color. My goodness. Angle brackets, it could be. Yeah, it might think, President, not sure, it might think that trying to inject some code into here. So let's get some color resources. I'm not sure what we have here. Let's set up a color resource for like our main text color. And I think in the design it's just white. I know you're not evil, Bad Dragon. You're one of the good guys or girls. Hi, James. Other James Divis, welcome. All right, so let's go and put a static resource. Main text color. All right, cool. So we get ourselves a style in there. Let's run the application so as we can do this a little bit more interactively, huh? So let me go ahead and run this. Where's my window? Oops, I broke it. That's an interesting bug there. So I haven't put property equals, right? Because clearly I don't write enough setters. Here's an interesting bug. When you get an error in your app XAML, if you double click on it, it actually takes you to the app XAML for the UWP application. So that's probably the wrong thing. It's probably a bug that should be reported. I basically need to put equals in here, I think. You know what I normally do? I normally just copy this stuff from an existing set of styles that I have. Okay, so let's put this over here. So what we should be able to do now is we should be able to say, okay, well, let's go and we'll see if this works. We'll go and get our username and we'll say, let's use that style. Name label style. Means we can get rid of this. Did that change? I think it did. Let's try. Let's go back over and have app XAML. Let's change that to 40. I just want to make sure it's actually working there. Doesn't look right, does it? Name, label, style. No, that's not right, is it? That's our username. That's not working. Why is that not working? A regular font. Have I done these styles right? I think I've done these right styles right. X key, name, label, style. Target type is a label. Styles a static resource. Oh, look at that. I've overridden the font size here. That's why. That's better. All right, cool. So let's change that back to 20. Now that we know that we've got the right thing coming through. Beautiful. All right. Now let's create some other styles then. We want a style for the time, I suppose. So our time label style. For this one, we're going to use a bold font. We might make it like, I don't know, a bit bigger. It's pretty big. It's in the main text color. And then we'll come back over here to our time cell where we're showing this. And we'll say style equals. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. We just got a raid from CSHARPFRITZ with 98 people. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Fritz. All our bases belong to us. Well, you're all welcome here. So thank you very much. So what were you streaming, CSHARPFRITZ? Ronker's donk. Pip drawing a face. Agent Coder, welcome. Bit of a follow from CSHARPFRITZ there as well. Defend, I think hugs is the better thing to do.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
And that's the follow from CSHARPFRITZ. Thank you, sir. Oh, I broke it. Fantastic. Let's have a look at what we're doing here. That's not a binding. That's a static resource. Time label style. Let me show you what we're working on. Clinton, you're an audio guy. You'll be able to make me one. A Blazor project for scheduling. Wonderful. So C#. Always sing along to the jingle. Yeah, so CSHARPFRITZ does some amazing work. Always an interesting stream. So,
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
Fantastic, thank you. And so there we are. We've got, there's our jingle, which is too long. But Coding Gorilla, thank you so much for the follow. And I see one just came through for Electric Havoc as well. Thank you so much. Clinton says it never gets old. It does for me. All right, let's have a look at what we're doing here, people. While we're having a look, we're basically working with a Xamarin application. What we're doing is we're trying to reproduce this UI. Okay, so we're at the early stages yet, but we've got some of it working. We've basically got it so that, you know, we pop down a section here. When we hit the delete, we're sort of flipping that panel around and we're sort of flipping it back as well. So that's what we're working on, a Xamarin application. I'm running this in UWP, but of course, you know, we can run it in iOS and Android as well.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
Ronker's donk. Welcome, great tag. So thank you very much for the follow. Yeah. So Ancient Coder, yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's actually a really nice
Today
layout.
we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
There's your follow came through. Fantastic. Everyone should subscribe. If you've got a Twitch Prime, you can subscribe for free. But yeah, I don't do it for the subscribes, but you know, any money that does come through, I'll donate out to charity once I work out how to get that all set up. All right, so we're at the basic point of creating this UI. President Not Sure singing. Hopefully you're not at work singing. Right now we're just doing a little bit of styling to sort of make the fonts look a little bit more like what we have over here. Now, the reason I'm doing this in UWP, so this is kind of interesting and something that JAMESMONTEMAGNO mentioned in the last stream, is that if you are using UWP, you can actually use edit and continue in your code, which is really cool. So James mentioned that in the last stream. He said, hey, I wonder if this works, and it turns out it does. So that's pretty cool. All right, cool. Let's, President Not Sure, you're at home. Well, feel free to sing while you're at home. All right, I think we got a follow there. I think maybe Stream Elements is a bit laggy with those follows. But I see the follow from King Scorpio 64.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
Smab UK. Laser. Lasla. I'm terrible at pronouncing Twitch names. All right, cool. So we've got our time label style.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
So yeah, maybe that jingle is too long, but it'll get in your head, I promise. Just as it has for President Not Sure. All right, let's create another style for that little bit of subtext down the bottom. So again, thanks so much for the follows, peeps. Really appreciate it. Okay, so what do we want? We want to have a style for basically that location information. So we're just doing this.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts,
Ice cream codes? Oh, ice cream codes. I scream, you scream, we all scream for codes. What's our location label going to be? So location label.
Today we're going to code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh, how amazing you'll be.
Thank you so much for the follow as well. Let's have a look at the design. So this is this text down here. So it's a little bit smaller.
Today we're going to code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts,
Top
and
fuel.
oh, how amazing.
Thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate it. My goodness, it's hard work when there's lots of people on the stream. President Not Sure says, good thing it's not a drinking game. Maybe we should turn it into a drinking game. In fact, I've got a coffee, so I'm going to have a drink of that. Maybe I'll have a coffee every time and see if I can like freak out. All right. So our location, let's make that, I don't know, let's go ahead and apply that and then we'll see what works. So where's our location? Here it is here. So we'll get rid of that style there. We'll get rid of this text color. Nothing says it can't be a drinking game. Absolutely. And so we'll have a static resource and we're going to have our location label style. Okay. That's a little too big. Person not sure lack of booze makes it a not starter. Let's adjust that font size. So I don't think we want that to be 40. I think we probably want it to be a little bit like 12 or something like that. Yeah, that's good. We're going to have let's get another color here for the location information. So let's call this, say, location text color. All right, and I'm going to come over to my favorite design tool at the moment, which is Adobe XD. And let's have a look at what sort of color this is. In fact, I think I captured a little bit earlier on. So here it is. Okay, so we're going to make this, oops, location text color. All right, and hopefully, there we are. That's good. It should be in uppercase. So let's cheat. Let's just go to our time info class. And let's just get the location. Oh, I can't do that while I'm running. Let's do a 2 upper on that. Okay, that'll look a little bit nicer as well. The next thing we want to do is probably that sort of, yeah, let's have a look at what we've got there. Okay, so that's a pretty good starting point. Maybe what we should do is, James, you did miss a raid. So CSHARPFRITZ kindly raided over here. So lots of people joined us, and lots of people very kindly subscribed or followed. Exactly, raid. So that's really cool. Okay, AM/PM. Now at the moment, just to get this later mode road, I like it. Let's go and set up an AM/PM style, and we'll just throw that in here. AM/PM label style. It's going to be bold. It's going to be small. It's going to have the main text color. Yeah, so 98 came through. Yeah, amazing. I think it's the first sort of decent sized raid I've had, which is really fun. Okay, so let's go and add in ourselves an AM/PM after here. Now I don't have this in my model, but really what I'm trying to do here in these sessions is just talk about how you do your layout. I'm not necessarily implementing best practices for building your app, more about just the UI side of things. Okay, so let's come down here. Let's add in, how am I going to do this? I think what I'll do is I'll have a stack layout around this. So stack layout, for those of you who aren't Xamarin developers, stack layout basically lays out the children either horizontally or vertically. And so I'm going to say, let's lay these out horizontal. And then I'm going to throw a label in here. And we'll make this our AM/PM label style. And for the moment, I'm just going to throw a little bit of text in here. Okay. Get rid of that margin. Let's see what that does. Wowzers, that didn't do good. So what I've done now is I've actually put that stack layout and it's gone into the first column. So it actually needs to go into the second column of this table. Which means I can get rid of that. There, that's a little bit nicer, isn't it? Get rid of that margin. That's cool. Now, one of the cool things you can do with margins as well is you can do negative margins. So let's try this. Let's just say a margin for our AM is going to be 0 to the left. It's going to be a negative top, which is going to pull it up. So let's try this like, I don't know, like a 12. There we are. And that's pretty cool. And maybe what we'll do is we'll add a little bit of margin to the right of this as well. That is a really, really good question, Ancient Coder. Do I need do I need an AM or a PM if I'm showing 24 hours? Probably not. I'm just sort of having a look at this one here. So one of the interesting things when you have a look at designs is you notice that, designers design things that probably when you start using them, you think, yeah, that's not really going to work. So I'm just gonna keep with the AM/PM just to show people how you can sort of position that text. But yeah, it's a good point. I think for a real-time application, you probably want to say, you probably want to say something like, today at 11 in the afternoon or something. Present Not Sure asks, why is Visual Studio fussing about the margin property? Yeah, it's, for some reason, it's sort of saying the thickness doesn't support converting from a string. It clearly does. I'm not sure. It's just an IntelliSense thing, I feel. But I'm going to add a margin to this, and I'm going to say, let's give it a margin to the right. Okay, so when you do a margin, yeah, so Nick mentions a bit of right margin. Yeah, absolutely. So that's left, top, right, bottom. So hopefully that will sort of bring it in for us. There we go. All right, cool. So that's looking a little bit nicer. And what we probably want to have a look at now, let's have a look at our design here, is we probably want to get these elements here and bring some of these images in. So what I've done is I've created these images ahead of time. I use a little icon pack called PIcons, which I actually quite like. So the idea here then is I've got these elements, and this is a really cool thing of Adobe XD that I really, really like, is I can basically, maybe I can just do that. So each of these is named, right? Sun, delete, edit, moon, yes, no, close, etc. Because when you're working with Xamarin and you're working with images, they need to go into certain folders under certain platforms. And because of the different device densities as well, you need to provide them in different sizes, which is a total pain in the butt. But the good news is that Adobe XD helps us out with that. So if we have a look, we've selected those images. Let me just make sure it's not running. We'll go and we'll export it out to these various projects, right? So Android images go under the drawable folders. Under iOS, they normally go into the resources folder, and in UWP, they just dump it by default into the main directory. And I'll just throw them in there. We can refactor it later on. So if I go and select all of these and I say, hey, let's go and export the selected items, it will basically allow us to, let me just make sure that I've got the right folder here. GitHub, Unzone. I can basically go and specify a folder. So here, for example, if we export the iOS ones, I say, go and dump those into the resources folder, hit the export, and that will actually create me the 1, the 2, and the 3 times automatically. Likewise, if I go and export these and I say, hey, this is for Android, it will then export all these assets under these different sizes as well. So this needs to go into the Android directory under the resources. So we'll say, yep, let's go and export them to there. And then we'll go and do the same thing with UWP. Yeah, it's a really, really nice feature, actually. I really like that. Let's go and export. So this is Adobe XD. Which is actually free. It's a very un-Adobe-like thing to do. Great free software, but it's free and it works really well. The two design apps that I generally use are Adobe XD, or if I'm at a Mac, I will use Sketch. Although I'm actually sort of moving away from Sketch a little bit, just because Adobe XD allows me to work on both platforms. Yeah, so yeah, Adobe XD. So, you know, it's available as it's free, you know, so you can get it as part of Creative Cloud. If you've got one of those, you can just get it. Otherwise, it's one of the few Adobe products that are actually free to use. I think there's some limitations in terms of how many users can use it and things like that, but it's really cool. All right, so we've got ourselves a whole bunch of resources that we've exported. Now we need to bring them into our projects. So a nice little trick for this is if you say show all files, sometimes what it will do, and I feel this is a little bit of a bug as well. So sometimes you've got to click that a few times, but you see what it's done is it's exported all of those, say for our Android, under all of the different device densities. So I could say basically go and select those. By default, we don't include that. So we'll bring all those in. We'll bring in all these ones as well. We'll bring in them under the different device. And that just helps, different device densities. That just helps keep them a little bit crisper on different densities. So I can select all of those and I can say including project. Okay, I'll do the same thing for iOS. Yeah, so here, now I need to click that. You see it's brought on the 2 times and the 3 times, which is pretty cool. What have we got? Deletes, edits, map pin, moon, the no, and the yes. Include those in our project, and then we'll go and we'll find the UWP ones and do those. The other thing to note about images as well is that they have different build actions. So iOS is bundle resource. Fortunately, Visual Studio just takes care of that for you. Under Android, they're Android resources. Okay, and then we'll go and find our UWP ones. So what you have in Adobe XD, did we get these? There we go. What you can do in Adobe XD is you can work out what you're designing at. Now, I think best practices with designers is pretty much you want to design at 1 times, but Adobe XD is, you know, it's a vector application, right? Like if I zoom in on this, it's always going to be crisp, no matter how close I am. But I designed this at 1 time, and when I export, so if I was to grab an item here, what you'll notice is it'll actually give the option. It will say, hey, what was I, if I go to iOS, what was I designing at? Was I designing at 1, 2, or 3 times? And so it's a vector image, so it's going to scale it nicely. But I basically just set it to 1 time. Yeah, super cool. All right, so now what we have is we got some images in. So now we can start putting these into our design. And given that they're in there, I can probably do this while I'm running. So let me just spin this up. Okay, cool. So let's first of all get that box view that we have here, this orange box. Let's turn that into a real thing. So instead of a box view, let's put an image, and our source for this, of course, I've forgotten the names already, haven't I? Sun.png. Okay. In fact, I could probably, you know what I could probably do? Let me do this. These are pretty similar tags, so I'll just turn this into an image. Get rid of the background color. Give it a source. Sun.png. Maybe that'll do it. Here we are. Got a sun, a little bit big. Yeah, not too bad. This font is too bold. So let's get our location. Let's change that to like a regular font. Okay, that looks a little bit better. A little bit more like our reference design that we're playing around with. Actually, there's a better screenshot here. Okay, looks a little bit nicer. Let's put in that that little marker, and then let's do some more fun animations. Okay, so I'm going to come into my time cell where I've got our location. Okay, so what I can do here is I can say, okay, well, what I want is I want a little image here to the left of it. So I can create a stack layout that goes horizontally inside of a vertical stack layout effectively. So that's exactly what I'll do. So I say I want a stack layout, which in this case is going to go horizontal. And then we'll go and we'll throw an image in here. Our source is our map pin.png. And it's probably going to be way too big to begin with. No, it's actually not too bad. Okay, so we got our map pin. We might get rid of that margin. In fact, if that margin is 0, let's just get rid of it altogether because then we don't need it. So that's looking a little bit nicer. What we might want to do is bring this text a little bit closer together. So that's where we can use a negative margin. So we could say a margin for this stack layout is actually not for this one, for the one just below. So let's say our margin is 0 to the left, minus 500. There we are. Brings them a little bit closer. All right. So that's cool. Now, if we want a little bit more spacing in between them, with a stack layout, we can say, let's give it a spacing. And this is essentially the spacing between these elements here. So 20 is too much. 10, yeah, looks about right. Not too bad. Not too bad. Actually, I think we want a little bit more space there, so maybe we'll just get rid of that margin. All right, sweet. So at the moment, that's probably all of the fonts and colors that we need. Oh, actually, no, I'll tell you what we need to do. In these pop downs, we need to start giving these some fonts, and also we need to, if we come back here, if we have a look at these pop downs, we need a trash icon, some yes and no button fonts as well. So let's come back to our app XAML. Let's create ourselves another style. This one is going to be for basically our pop-up text, if you like. So I don't know, what should we call that? Let's call that like our like a pop-up text style or something like that. Pop-up label style. Okay, we want that to be probably just a regular font. Let's have a look and see how it looks. So we'll go with that at the moment. Okay, and we'll come back to our main page XAML. And let's adjust some of these. So we've got our delete label here. Let's give that the style. That doesn't look right, does it? Text of delete. I don't feel that that is the right style. Regular 14. Let's just find out. Let's just bump it up. Let's just see if that's taking. Yep, definitely there. Okay. It's 16. I think that's probably about right. And we also want to throw an image in next to it. Oops, we don't want it there. We want to do our main page. So again, we can pull the same trick, right? We can basically say, let's create ourselves a horizontal stack layout because we want an image there. Orientation is going to be horizontal. And we're going to have an image to the left. source is going to be, of course, I've forgotten what it is. I'd say delete. So I'm going to guess I called it delete.png. That's it. Okay. We want that to be centered. So we'll say its horizontal options centered. Probably a little bit big, maybe. Let's say its width request 20 and a height request of 20. We'll see what happens there. That's about right. And we can also add a little bit more spacing in between here, right? So again, with a stack layout, what you can do is you can say spacing equals, I'm going to say 20, probably a bit much, make it 10. There we are. That'll do. All right, let's do the same thing for our edit button. In fact, let me just copy this code here. So, is there a reason I'm not doing columns in the grids? Hey, David. No, given that it's contained within a grid, I could certainly do that. Let's just think about it. So what I could have here, as David mentions, is I could actually just sort of say, let's go and create a column definition, right? Because what happens with, any layout really is if you have too many levels nested, then it requires more calculations to work it out. And so it's a little less performant. So what you're saying there, David, is we could basically do something like this. We could,
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotts.
Hey, my secure gift.
How amazing you'll be.
Welcome. What are we building? That's an excellent question. All right. What we're building is we're building this UI. So this is a reference UI that I found over on Dribble by a guy called Rick Waalders. Hi, Bergen. Piers, how you doing? I'm probably saying that wrong, right? So we basically got this UI, and we basically are trying to reproduce this, right? So at the moment, what we have is got the basic layout. We've got it sort of popping down. When I hit the delete, flips around, says, "Are you sure?" I say no, flips back around again, right? So we just sort of with animations too. Yeah, we're totally doing animations. We're going to do all the animations. We're going to remove it with animations. Normally what I try and do with these is I try and make it as sort of faithful as practical to the source material. And really it's just a way of, I really like doing UI stuff. And so, just spending some time doing UI. I like to share this out as well onto GitHub. So if somebody wants to know how to produce a UI like this, it might give them some pointers. So David says, don't redo the delete, maybe try columns in the next. That's very kind of you, David. You know what I would like to do, and for those of you who don't know David's I don't know, I suppose it's program manager. You're in charge of forms, basically, Xamarin.Forms. So everything we're doing here is due to his good work and his team's work. But what I'd like to get better at is actually designing myself, right? Like I can take a reference design and I can turn it into I'll come back to that. So I can take a reference design and sort of reproduce it, but I kind of suck if I have to create one from scratch. So I don't know, maybe I'd like to do a design course. And I know David is very good at design. Now this GitHub repo, that is the wrong repo, by the way, peoples. I haven't updated it. If you want to get hold of this code, where you want to go, and obviously I haven't checked it in. I sort of check it in after every session. So my apologies, I need to go and update that. This is where I'm putting the source code. So wait until after this session, and then we'll have, I think, probably all of it implemented. Okay, back to code. Now, what David was saying is, instead of having a grid and then having a stack layout horizontally here to lay these out, why don't I just divide this into a column, right? Put an image over here and a delete over there. Could good designers be good designers? I think so. All right, so let's do this with the edit one, as David says. So I can see some challenges already with this, right? So what I could do is I could say grid dot column definitions, and I could say let's create 2 columns, one of them with, and this I think is going to be the challenge, David. So if we say make that a width of star, and then we give it 2 columns, so we're effectively got this grid, we're splitting it into 2 columns here down the middle. We're going to put the image over here, aligned to the right, and we're going to put the text over there, aligned to the left, right? I think that's what you're talking about, David. So I could basically say, let's go and get the grid dot column for our text to be column 1. Yeah. So we'll just go through this because it's an interesting discussion, right? And then I'll grab an image. And it's kind of good to talk about because there is a lot of different ways you can do the same layouts. So if we say the grid dot column here is 0, and then this is the edit PNG, and like if we do that, right, that wasn't ideal. What we might want to do is we might just say horizontal options, make it at the end. We might have the vertical options and make it centered. Right. So now the problem is that, I could put this over here on the left. So I could say its horizontal options a start, and it will kind of give us what we're after, because what you can do is you can say, let's add a little bit of spacing in between the columns. So I could say column spacing. Column spacing is 10. That'll look a little bit more convincing. Now the problem is going to be that, let's just change this. Just add this style down here, make it a little bit more like it should be. There we go, that's a bit better. Yeah, so the challenge here is that it's going to be difficult because if that text is long, it's going to be off-centered. So that's kind of what I was going for. David says another option is to make it a button and use the icon. The problem I had with buttons is, like, buttons have an icon and you can position the icon, and it's really cool. But in this case, if I was to make this a button, I wonder if I can just change this to a button. No, that won't really work. Part of the problem in UWP is as you move over it, it has this horrible border around it and it kind of insets everything. And so it kind of spoils the illusion. So yeah, that's kind of why I went for this, which is a little bit nasty, but it gets the job done, which is what UI is all about, really. Okay, so I'm gonna take this back. Cool. Let's. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab this here. This is what I was after. So in my edit drop down, where am I? Make that a stack layout. Yeah, it's good to have these discussions. Absolutely. So it wants to be an edit PNG. There we are. Could do some work on my (2020). Yeah, all right, that's fine. I think this image could be a little darker. Anyway, We could make it a little bit bigger. Maybe that would. Anyway, whatever. You can fine tune those later on. Okay, that's cool. Let's just quickly do our info drop down as well. So that's showing our time zone information. Okay, so let's come back here. Let's. While you're here, David, or if you're still here, why so many squigglies? Am I doing something wrong? So how am I doing the flip animation? Yeah, okay. Let me just put this style in for this bottom section here, Ancient Coder, and then we'll go and we'll quickly talk about how we do it. Okay, so what are we doing? We're doing information label style. This is going to be a regular font. It's a little bit smaller. Let's have a look at our reference design. Okay, there we are. Let's the main text color. I'll change that to info. And we'll come back to our main page. Set its style. Info label style, get rid of that out of there. Uh-oh, I broke something. Info label style. I forgot to save this file, didn't I? I wonder if it will allow me to continue. Oh, my screen went blank. Oh no, we're back. Close the solution, open the solution. I'll give it a go. Now, what are we actually putting into there? Let's have a look at what we're putting into that page. At the moment, we've just got the time zone. So let's quickly have a look at our model objects, see what we have. We do have a time zone ID. Let's create ourselves another property here. Actually, no, let's just use time zone ID. So at the moment, we just got some muck data. Games back on. What sort of game do you watch, Dave? Happy Friday. It is Friday. Happy Friday indeed, Nick Larson. All right. Hockey game. That looks like a crazy, brutal game to me. As long as you enjoy it. What do we call it? We are exposing this to our view model. Time zone OD. We've got some time zones. Why you no render? Why you no render? Doesn't seem right, does it? Binding. Just check with. Oh. Yep, there it is. So our time info definitely has a time zone ID. It's exposing. Are we setting it? Yeah, we've got some values in there. Okay. Let's see if we can work out what's going on here. So sometimes what I like to do is I like to put in a background color. see if we can see where it thinks it is. Let's see what we have. Horizontal. Oh yeah, try a different property. Yeah, it's a good idea. I like your thinking there. I like your thinking. Just to test whether bindings are working. Do we have any bindings here? There must be some bindings here. There's our bindings. Well, no, not so much. Okay, let's bind it to, what have we got, the name? Username. Nope. All right. What's going on there? Anyone see anything that I'm doing wrong there? Is the binding context set? The binding context is set, I do believe, because we're doing that up here. A fake cell binding context. The binding context there. Mind you, that's not our fake cell. Ooh, hang on a second. I think maybe for that fake cell it's set there, but the question is the binding context for this? Yeah, it's the main view model. So we're setting the binding context for this page to be our main view model. That element. Here's, you said which pages have an issue. It was in the app XAML, but actually it's gone away now. It was just Visual Studio taking a while. Yeah, could have just been that. I'll let you know. Okay, YB Dragon, Y Bad Dragon. That's the main view model. So that's going to be the main view model. Actually, maybe what I want to do is, that's setting the binding context on this. Ooh, maybe that's going to be a challenge for us because this is not that cell, is it? Oh, sorry, not that one. Where are we? Where is it? Info cell. So it's not binding, so it's not going to get that there. All right. Well, that's definitely there. So it's positioned correctly. All right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to kind of cheat here. Yeah, James Divas says, I found that squiggles take some time to go away in Visual Studio. Yeah, I've noticed that in Visual Studio 2019, it takes longer for squiggles to disappear. Yeah. absolutely. Okay, I'm going to put the binding context back here. Just trying to think what the best way of doing this is. Perhaps what we'll do is we'll say, okay, well, we're setting the binding context to the fake cell, right? That's how. Oh, actually, you know what I'll do? I'll take a step back here. First of all, because ancient coder was curious about the flip, all right, and how this is working, how this overlay is actually working. So let's talk about that, and then that will probably lead us into setting the binding context. So first of all, when we go and we click on one of these cells, right, what we're actually doing is we're overlaying a image here. Sorry, not an image. We're overlaying an absolute layout with an opacity to fade out the background. We're effectively creating a copy of the cell that we clicked on. That's what is referred to as the fake cell. We're setting the binding context of that to the element that we selected. Okay, and then it's data binding that information. And then what we have is we've got some bits that we're actually animating in, right? So one of the nice things about Xamarin.Forms is it has some really nice animations brought in. So for example, our open dropdown, when it opens up one of these, it basically starts the rotation at -90. So it's vertical, and then it rotates it and fades it in to 0. So it swings it down and fades it in. And close drop down does the opposite, right? Now the flip is done just like this. Instead of rotating this way, we're rotating on the y-axis. So we basically say, get our from panel, which is this one. We rotate that around until it's like there. And then we replace what's in the, what's visible with the confirmation, and then we spin that back around. All right, so that's actually what's happening there. And so that's what spins it in. So that's sort of how those animations are working. Alrighty, now that brings us to an interesting question there. And I think the binding context is wrong, right? We don't have that information because if we have a look, we're setting the binding context to in the fake cell, okay? But we're not actually giving the binding context for the selected element. So if we say, let's get the data here, right, which is going to be our selected cell, right? So that's our element here. So we'll say our element dot binding context, something like that. Okay, so that should definitely pass that to a time info. It's a little bit nasty perhaps, but that should allow us to get that data. And then we could set the binding context on that label. Because they're a little bit suboptimal. But let's have a look. So if we give this a label, if we give this a name, like, I don't know, time zone label or something like that. Okay, and save that. We could perhaps do something like this. Or we could just do this. We've got the info pop down. Couldn't we use that? Let's do this. For the moment, let's just do this. See if this works for us. We'll get rid of that altogether. Probably want to do some work on these binding contexts a little bit later. So all we're doing here is we're saying, okay, we'll go and get that information for that selected element. Let's go and set that text to be it. Let's see if this works. Yeah, CST. So that's the That's the info. Cool. Okay, so we got that kind of working. This is where I go ahead and I say, well, I want to focus in on the animations. So fix this disaster up. Yeah, the fake cell. Okay, so the structure of this, let's have a look at this, the structure of this. All right, it's a good question. So what we have is we've got basically a front side and a back side. Okay, so let me just spin this up so we can see it. So the front side is the bit that pops up when we tap on it. Now the challenge is, what we want to do is we want to fade the background out, except for the cell that we have selected. One way you could do it is you could possibly like create a fade there and a fade there, but that's a little bit difficult. So instead what I do is I just have a fade background, which goes over the whole screen. And then I have a fake cell that sits in the front side here, right there, which basically gets the binding details for the one that's selected. And so that's actually this one that pops up in here. It just happens to look exactly the same. So this is that one, if that makes sense. Beautiful. Oh, I think we've got to follow.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotson.
Thank you very much for the follow.
Amazing you'll be.
I'm not even going to try and pronounce that. Pradfarange? President, not sure. Thanks for joining us. Wonderful. So the fake cell is part of the component. Could you assign the binding context to the containing component instead? So basically set the binding context up here in the grid, perhaps. Maybe. Yeah, maybe that's a plan. I like that. And then it would inherit down. Yeah, that would probably work. All right. But what I'm going to do though, because I'm going to be short of time otherwise, I'm going to leave it like it is, and I'm going to refactor that later on. So I've made myself a little to do, fix this disaster up. I'll tackle that one a little bit later. Okay, because what I want to do now
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim Philpotson. Oh,
thank you so much for the follow.
Amazing you'll be.
Appreciate it. Alrighty. Actually, we've got to do another couple of images. Sorry, I'm not quite done here yet. We've still got to do the styling on this side. All right, so let's quickly go and do that. So that's going to be in the back side. I'm just going to steal that style on the way down. Now back side, let's give this label, am I sure? Give that a style of pop-up label. Get rid of that. Beautiful. Our yes button. We probably want the yes button to be done the same way. Now, you know, there's a lot of good optimizations that we could do here. For example, these buttons that we have here. Thanks, Ancient Coder. See you later. Have a great weekend, probably. I feel something's not quite right there. All right, what I was going to say is we got these kind of fake buttons that we have, and I should refactor those out into a component that I can just use. But for the moment, like I said, my normal approach here is to get something working and then come back and fix it up a little bit later on. So this is going to be a yes button. So for this, we're going to have a yes PNG, and this is going to have a style. Of pop-up label style. Oh. Okay. And we'll go ahead and we'll do the same thing down the bottom as well. For our no button. One of my favorite tools, by the way, is XAML Styler. So it means I can just jam XAML in wherever I want, and as soon as I save, it'll rejig it nicely. Let's have a look at what happens. Stick an OPNG in here. Beautiful. Yes and no. Lovely. I think actually in the design they're the other way around. Let's have a quick look. Yeah, they are. No and yes. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Let's move these around. That's my no button. And this is probably one reason why you'd want to put this into a... Actually, you know what I could do? I could just change the row that it's in. Sorry, the column that it's in. I could say, hey, this is the first button because there's a grid that contains all of this. And this is in column 1. Let's see if that works. There we are. Done. Beautiful. Okay. Cool. I feel that text should be a little bit bigger as well. Sorry, this is what UI stuff is all about. Just these tiny little changes, isn't it? Yeah, it's a bit better. Nice. Wonderful. All right, let me have a look at where we're at. I think there's a problem there when it comes back. We might have to work on that. It's really satisfying and it works. So I think we've done our fonts, images, and styles. Anyway, we'll say that's done for the moment. Let's talk close buttons. Right. So this one's interesting. This is an interesting UI piece, actually. Let's have a look at this. What this is doing is when these elements are flying in, or they're animating in, this button zooms in from the bottom. It rotates as it's doing it. It changes opacity. It does a little bounce at the end, right? You watch it. All right, so it basically goes in there. So what we could do is we could actually, we could actually just sort of put this below that cell, start it like down. Let me bring this over here. What we could effectively do, and this is my strategy here. Now, when it's like this, you see it's flying in from the bottom. So we could position it to start off with down here with an opacity of 0, right? We can transform it up while we're also doing a rotation and an opacity transform, right? And basically bring it up from the bottom and then settle it here. So that's kind of what we're going to do. So one of the nice things, like I said about Xamarin.Forms animations, is it's pretty much we can actually just use the Xamarin.Forms animations. They're really good. They use the platform animations. So they're very, very efficient. Okay, so let's do this. Let's first of all, I suppose we want to create ourselves a button. Okay, so effectively our close button. So we'll do that in our main page.xaml. right down the bottom here after our backside, but we also still want to do it inside of here. So create ourselves an image and give this a source. Our source is going to be, I think I called it close button. Let me check. Excuse me, I'm going to sneeze, I think. Okay, so it's going to sit inside of the absolute layout. We'll give it a height and a width. Okay, but we'll position it inside of our code where we position the pop-ups, because we want it to kind of be relative to the pop-up. Okay, so we'll put it there. We're also going to want a click handler for it as well. So we'll give this a name, because we're going to want to reference it in our code. So we'll call this like close button. So YB Dragon says it also continues rotating the same direction as it fades out. Zoiks. Let's have a watch. Yep, keeps rotating, drops down, fades out. So it's kind of a complex UI and or complex animation, I suppose. But we should be able to do it. Let's see if this will work. So let's create a gesture recognizer. Tap gesture recognizer. So when we tap on the button, we'll say, you know, I probably want to move this into a view model later on. So let's call this the close. Chain it together with RX. It's like, here's a joke for you, Clinton. So you've got this problem, and so then you put RX in, reactive extensions. Now you've got two problems. No? Bad joke? Probably. All right, so this is our close, right? So this is where we're going to want to do some fancy stuff. But really what we want to do first of all, we want to go and position the close button. And I'm not going to do it here because, sorry, I'm going to create a method for it, right? Because otherwise we're going to end up with all this positioning rubbish going on. So let's say position the close button based on, it's going to be based on the selected cell. So we're going to pass in our element, right? Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to write it here. Let me just write it here first, and then we'll extract it into a method. So this will be position the close button. Okay. So let's say its X position is going to be in the middle of the screen, right? But of course it has a width, so we'll say it's the width of the screen divided by 2 minus half the width of it. Something like that. Do we call it close button? Just didn't save it. There we are. Okay, so that should position it in the middle of the screen. Now it's an absolute layout, so we're specifying the X pos. Now our Y pos is going to basically be from our selected cell, which is our element. We want its Y position. So we can say elements are bound at Y. That'll give us the position of that element vertically. Then we want it to appear below the pop-up panel. So if we say, what did we call that? Front side. Dot height. Maybe. Bounds.height. Doesn't matter. I don't know. Plus, we want some padding. Right, so, and that's to drop it down below that. Otherwise, it will appear at the bottom. Right, so let's make that 40 to start with. Okay, plus our padding here. Okay, so that should be the Y position of it. So then because it's in an absolute layout, we need to basically create ourselves a rectangle and then assign that. So we'll say close button rect equals a new rectangle, ish rectangle. So the parameters for this, the X and the Y, so X pos, Y pos, it's width. So I don't know, it's width, I suppose. Close button dot width. Close button dot height. Let's have a look at why that IntelliSense isn't working. Because I didn't close this tag. And so it's all super confused. There we are. Cool. Andre says, keep in mind that the selected element could be at the bottom edge of the screen. Not sure if you've handled that scenario so far. I haven't handled that scenario. So this is where we got to look beyond, I suppose, what the designer was doing. And I suspect this is the case when you work with designers lots. They come to you with this awesome design. And then when you go and implement it, you go, what happens if that cell's at the bottom of the screen, right? So in that case, maybe it wants to pop up from the bottom. I don't know. That's probably what we'd want to do. So you might want to like invert the whole thing. It's a really cool observation. Let's not worry about it right at the moment though. Let's see if we can get the animations working. But I'm going to make a note. And then we had another one as well, binding context. Set higher in the view hierarchy. I can't spell hierarchy. Okay, cool. Okay, so we're going to close button. It's there. We've kind of got the positions for it. Let's see what happens when we set the absolute layout. Absolute layout dot set layout bounds for our close button, and we give it a rectangle. So all things going well then, this should appear in the right spot, I think. Let's see what happens. If it appears in the right spot, then what we can do is we can have a look at moving it or doing the animations. All right, cool. Cool. Okay, so that's about where we want it. So it's positioning it there for that cell. Yep, it's positioning it in the right place for that cell. So that's cool. As Andre said, yeah, it's totally not going to work if I had a cell down here. We're going to have to think about what we would do with the design. But for the moment, that seems to be working pretty well. So we have it in the right position. So now we need to do the animation in. So probably I'll translate it down as the starting point and then move it up, rotate it, do all its fancy stuff. So let's have a look at that. So we're going to close button. Let's so if we have a look at when this is done as well, actually, it starts flying in before everything's expanded, right? So does it? Let's have a look. Excuse me. Actually, I don't think it does. It comes in after. That's cool. So after we do all of these drop downs, let's go and write ourselves a method. Animate the close button. Right. So we're taking our close button, and we also want to, we need to deal with this fact that it could be coming in or it could be going out, right? So let's create a thing to say this is coming in. Generate that method. No, let's give it a really bad name. Entering, maybe? Because then we can just use the same method to effectively reverse it. Okay, so what we want to do with this then is we want to start it off lower. So we're going to do some translations to begin with to give it its starting point. So we'll have our starting translation. And so this is going to translate it down. So we're going to say if we're entering, let's make this, I don't know, like 100 or something like that. Otherwise it's going to be 0. All right. The idea there is that we can give it a start and an end. And if it's entering, the translation is going to be 0, otherwise it's going to be 100. I'm sure I can write this code better. But then what I should be able to do is I should be able to say, if I say close button, see if this works, close button dot translation y, right? Or translate to, right? We don't want to set the translation, we want to translate to, because that's the animatable method. We want to not change the translation on the X coordinates. So we'll put 0 in there. We'll put we want the ending translation in here. We'll give it the animation speed so that they're consistent. It probably has an easing. Okay, so easing defines that little bump at the end. So I think it was probably like a spring out, maybe. Because when it gets to the top, it sort of does this little bump, you know. Now, what we also want to do is this: we want to set our close button initial translation. All right. And we'll put that at the start translation. All right. All right, let's give that a go. We'll see if that works. And we could also animate it out as well. So at the moment, when it closes here, we could say let's see if this works. Just gonna have a look here. Let's see what it's doing. When it closes, yeah. Hi, Kevin W. Hello, anyone know MATLAB? I have a simple question. I have no idea. I'm sorry. Somebody else in the chat might know, but no experience with it whatsoever. My apologies. All right, let's see what happens when we do this. All right. It actually flew in there. Okay, you can see it's positioning itself and it's moving up and down. it goes in and out. So obviously what we need to do is we need to deal with the opacity and the rotation of it as well. But it's actually doing the right thing. Okay, so let's do the same sort of logic then to say, okay, so we've not only got a translation, but we've got a starting and ending opacity. So when it's entering, it's going to have a value of 0. Otherwise, it's going to have a value of 1. And so that's where it starts. And then our ending opacity is going to start at 1 and go to 0. I feel there might be a nicer way of doing this, right? And then what we could do is we could say, okay, well, let's set our close button opacity, close button equal to our starting opacity. And we can also animate that. So there's a fade to method, and we want to fade it to the ending opacity. Yeah, I actually brought that in, you know. I just saw your Andre, I saw you might want to use a parameter instead of the global variable. Absolutely. Yep. How about this? In fact, why don't we do this? Why don't we make that a visual element? It's a little bit specific, this method, but yeah, absolutely. Cool. So we're going to fade it to the ending opacity. We're going to do it over our animation speed. So we may want to adjust those a little bit later on. I don't think we have any easing. I think it just comes in, goes out.
Today we're gonna code lots
follow.
with Mr. Kim Phil
Hi, Kevin W.
Oh, how amazing
Thank you so much.
you'll be.
Welcome. We're just trying to do some fancy pants animation stuff in Xamarin.Forms, in case you just joined us. So I think now maybe that should not quite do what I was after. Kind of. Flies in, flies out. I need to set an initial state of it. Yeah, I definitely need to set an initial state. Okay, it's basically working there. It starts visible, exactly. Why don't we take care of that right now? Hey, Lachlan, welcome. Hi, friends. that was my best best impersonation of Scott Hanselman. Hi, friends. You know what? Actually, I think probably what we want to do is let's set some initial state up the top here. I think there's probably a few things we want to do. Okay, let's just do it in here because, of course, it depends on the state of things. Close button dot opacity. Let's set that equal to 0. So it always starts off invisible. Okay. Hey, friends. Okay. Position our drop down. Let's see these animation speeds, because I think it sort of happens at a different speed to everything else. Let's have a quick look at this. So the flyouts are pretty quick. Yeah, it's not too bad. All right. Let's stick with this for the moment. Okay. Probably the last thing I want to do is our rotation. All right, so let's do the same sort of concept here. We want to rotate it in as it's going up, and we want to continue the rotation as it's going down, actually. So we'll say starting rotation. If we're entering, well, it's going to be like, actually it spins and then it ends up in the right space. So we want to turn it to start and then bring it around to 0 and then take it around even further. So let's try this. Let's go -90. And then when it ends, it's going to start at 0 and probably go to 90, right? Because it continues to spin the same way. Something. Element to transform dot rotation. I don't know. No, we don't want to rotate to. Rotation equals starting rotation. And we want to rotate it to its ending rotation. It also, does this have a... Yeah, you can make it more than 360. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, you can. So the question was from Why Bad Dragon, can you go over 360 and make it spin more than one revolution? Yes, you can. What am I trying to do here? I'm trying to say, let's give it an animation speed. I wanted to see whether it overshoots. Let's have a look. No, it just comes to rest, but it does have an easing. So I'm going to guess it's like a sign out. Okay, so it sort of slows down as it gets to the end. Let's see what happens. Oops, where is my screen? Kind of spins in, yeah. I think it doesn't always want to have translation. Right, so when it gets to the bottom, we don't want it to do a sign out. We only want that to happen as it's coming in. So let's do this. Let's be cheeky. If we're entering, let's use an easing of sign out. If we're going out, we'll have an easing of none. None? Is there a none? So Why Bad Dragon says, I feel like the spring out animation you have isn't as bouncy at the end as the one in Dribble. That could just be this speed difference. Yeah, maybe. Let's have a look at it. We actually want this, we'll do this as a sign in, right? Because we want it to like come to the stop and then accelerate back down again. I feel like maybe these animation speeds aren't right as well. I feel that they are too fast given the speed of everything. So let's try a few values in here. 500. It fades right in. This is like where you can waste heaps of time in UI. Yeah. Well, actually, I think we do want an animation, right? Because I wish I could step through this frame by frame easily. It fades in faster than it stops and rotates, right? So So if we set the rotation, I don't know, let's just try like 700. Let's try 600. Right, so that way it continues to rotate after it hits where it is, finishes that, but it's faded in beforehand. It's okay. Oh, no, that's not right. The fade in works. That one's good. I like that one. What's happening with the... Yeah, what happens when it's going out? I feel that that's not going right. What's going on? Spins in okay. It's the spin out easing. Oh, yeah. We went and put this rotation easing in and then we didn't use it. Damn it. Let's edit and continue. Watch this. This is awesome. Comes in. No. Spring out on the translation. You think it wants to be... Oh, yeah. I think you're right here. I think you're right. Let's try this. Just stop it. Spring out in the translation and makes it jump back slightly before it's completely faded out. Yep. Let's try this. Wish there was a more interactive way we could do this. So let's add a translation easing. So if it's entering, then we'll go ahead and we'll spring it out. So it springs when it gets to the bottom, out into the out. So what we have there at the moment. And otherwise, we want it to fall. So let's go easing dots. Translation easing. So let's give that translation easing. This one here, I don't think it needs to spring. I think that's like a sign in out, actually. What do you think? So it starts slow, goes fast, slows down. Start slow, go fast, slow down. Something like that. Let's try that. I'm happy with that entry. That entry's good. Ooh. What do you think of that? Comes in, sits there, spins back out again. I think it's all right. Let's just watch it one more time. Comes in, stops. It probably spins out a little bit faster on the way out, actually. So maybe let's just quickly try something. He says, how am I setting it? I'm not. It's appearing on my other screen, and I've just got so used to it that I'm resizing it on my other screen and then dragging it across. So no, I'm not changing the size of the UWP. Let's watch this one more time. Okay, I got a theory here. I think it comes in a little bit slow on the rotation, and then it comes out a little bit faster. So I'm going to say it starts at minus 90, goes to 0. So it spins out twice as fast as it comes in. Ouch. Need more coffee. I like it. I like it. Clinton says it's faster in duration.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil,
Fred Boy.
Potson. Oh,
Fred
how
Boy 1, welcome. Thanks for the
amazing
join
you'll be.
and the follow. We're just we're playing UIs. You know what? I'm not gonna bore you with me just trying a million different values for this. You know, sometimes what I do if I'm trying to get animations like this to work, what I'll do is actually just end up putting myself some sliders down the bottom here so that I can play with them, get it right, and then work out the values and then put them back. But anyway, I'm not going to do that for the moment. I think that's okay. I think it's pretty good. Now, the other thing I want to do as well is we actually want to make the close of this not when we click on the background, but when we click on the button. So that's a small change we've got to make as well. Yeah, screen capture the video and measure the timing. Yeah, it's a good idea. I'm not that scientific, Clinton. You should know that. Ain't nobody got time for that exactly. So we did a close gesture recognizer. What did I do here? I can't even remember what I did. Okay, that's basically sitting there doing nothing. So I'm just going to get the code. Yeah, this here. All this stuff. This comes down in here. So it's only when you tap on the button. And we want to wait for it, so it's an async void. No, yes, it's an async void. Hey, that's not what I want. That's my window. Yeah, so it comes in, it starts at that size. I just resize it. So there, I tap on that.
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil, Potson.
Thank you for the follow, sir.
Amazing you'll be.
Appreciate it. All right, cool. I reckon that's enough on that for the moment. Let's have a look at what we've got in our to-do list. All right. What do you think? Are we done? I think we're done with that one. Okay. What else have we got? Okay, the delete item animation. So this is one I had a bit of a think about beforehand. And if we have a look at the video, when they say yes, they want to delete, it kind of like slides those cells up, does a little bounce there. So my theory is, how do you like this for a theory? What I'm going to do is, let's say we delete this cell. I'm going to grab all of the cells after it. So after that, so in other words, these two over here, and I'm going to translate them up with a bounce to that point. And because these are higher in the Z order, because the Z order basically as you go down, these will go over top of that one. And so all right, we're back. So we are back. So just as White Dragon says, hey, this is the bit I want to have a look at. The stream just drops. We're back. Fredboy1, I have a question about an error I'm having. Yeah, it feels terrible. I'm having a question about an error I'm having with pushing to an empty array. Any chance someone could shed some light on how to get around it? What I'm trying to push and here is object. I can't really help you with that, Fredboy, because I don't do any web development or Java development, JavaScript. So I'm terrible at it. So what we're doing here is we're doing C# Xamarin stuff. So unfortunately, I'm not the person to ask. Somebody else in the chat may be able to help you out. I actually wrote some JavaScript recently, and I discovered how terrible I am at it. So I'm probably not your person. All right. So let's. I'm not sure how much of that conversation you got, particularly Why Bad Dragon, about my strategy for doing this. But let's just implement it and just see what happens. Yeah, okay. So the theory then is that we grab if we're deleting this cell, we grab all of these cells, we move those cells up with a bounce animation. So they basically come over top of here, and then we delete the cell from underneath. Let's see what happens, because this could be terrible. First, do we have a button click handler for our delete? So that's going to happen when they hit the yay button. Okay, so let's go and get our yes button. Yes button. We'll just put it on this entire grid. So we'll say no worries, Fred boy. And yeah, thanks YB Dragon for sharing the knowledge. We're still running, that's why. Let's call this like, you know what I dislike? I dislike, and here's I doubt Piers is still back on, but if something has a name and you create a gesture recognizer, the default name of it should be whatever its name is, gesture recognizer, I think. Anyway. Okay, so this is going to be this button, tap, gesture recognizer tapped. Where am I going? Okie dokie. So, this is where we basically want to say go and delete an element, right? So I'll just write the code in here. We can move it into a method later on. First thing we want to do is we want to have a look at, we want to make sure we have the element to delete, right? So the element to delete is going to be the one that we selected on. So I'm going to, right, so that's actually the cell that we have. So I'm going to put this up into a variable here. Time cell selected element. Right, because that is the element to delete. And then what we want to do is we want to go through all the elements after it and translate them up. Okay. Sorry, sometimes when I'm thinking, I just write comments like this. That's sort of how I roll sometimes. Okay, so let's do this. So what I'm going to need to do is go through here. So basically, starting at the selected index. So let's get the selected index of this as well. So pretty much what we're going to try and do here is when we select it, let's find out where it is. Oh, that's not what we want. So we're going to say the selected index, and we're just going to have a look through our stack and see what we have. So I just need to check, do we have the name on this? Okay. Okay, that's our view stack. So we want to have a look at its children. So we want to say viewStack.children index of our selected element. All right, so that will give us the index, because then what we can do is we can then go from there. Right, so we want to start off at that selected element, selected index, right? And we want to go through to however many children it has. Yeah, at the moment, right? Because I've got a stack. I'm gonna try and move it to a collection view a little bit later on. So we want to start at the element after where we're going, and we want to go to what did we call it? What did I call it? I called it a view stack. Dot children dot count. Okay, so this will be iterating through each one. Right now, what we need to do is we need to work out the bounds we are going to move them to, and then move them. Right, that's pretty much what we're going to do. So the bounds we want to move it to is pretty much its own bounds minus the height of the cell that's getting removed. Right, so if we say bounds to move to equals viewStack.children index I, maybe. Right, because remember, all of this stuff we can change the bounds on. So then if we do that, we can then adjust bounds to move to. We can adjust its top, and we're going to subtract out of here the element to remove, right, which is going to be our selected element. Does that sound about right? Dot height. So we basically captured the rectangle of this one. We're subtracting out the height of the thing that we're removing. And then we want to basically animate that, right? So we'll just basically say, this element, the element to, let me do this. This could turn out horribly wrong, by the way. Element to move is equal to this. Right, so this might make it a little bit more easy to understand what's going on. So we're going to go and get the element to move. We're going to get the element to move bounds. We're going to subtract the selected element, the one we're deleting. And then we're going to element to move, we're going to translate that to those new bounds. Can we do that? What's the translate to? Does it have any overrides? I'll probably have to no, we don't want to do that. We want to do a layout too, okay? Because we're changing the layout to the bounds. Animation speed, easing, dot, bounce out, maybe? Okay. And then, once all that's finished, we then want to get the element to remove, which is our selected element. And we want to remove that. So we basically say our view stack dot children dot remove that element. Okay, but we can't do that until all of these are finished. So we might have to await when all of these animations are finished, basically. Let's see what happens. Let's create a list of tasks here. Let's add these animations, because what I want to do is I want to say animations.add that. And because what I really want to do is I want to say await for when all of these are finished. Right? So we have an array of no, it's not going to work for us. I thought that was going to work. Oh, the method's not async. Okay, cool. Yep, async void. So maybe we can do it. Let's have a look. So when all of these animations are finished, and we await that, which means we're not going to remove it until they've all moved up. Wow. If I was a betting man, I would say this is not going to work. But we can try. It might. It might. It kind of makes sense. Are we running? It's not going to work because it's not even firing. How about that? Okay, it is firing. That's a good start. Okay, cool. We're going from the selected index, which is 2. That does have count of 3. Really? Okay. Now, I think what we really need to do is we need to adjust this so that when we hit the yes button here, okay, we've got a few things that we need to do before we can just go and delete the element. We've got to close some things, right? Because what's happening, that's all happening beneath the surface. So let's do this. We want to close the overlays, okay? Which basically means we want to, if we have a look at what it actually does, delete, yes, flips it back around, closes it up. Oh man, this is going to be so much pain. So we have a flip method, right? So we can say, okay, well, let's go and flip it from the back side back to the front side. Yeah. So then it flips back around. We then want to close. We want to close our drop down. Close drop down. We want to close down the yes and the delete and the edit. Now, I don't think we want to, let's have a look. I don't think we want to await them. So we go delete, say yes. We actually want to, we do want to wait, but so we'll await that. Okay, cool. And then we want to fade our background out. So this is something I think we should refactor out a little bit here, but we've got our fade background. Let's fade that to 0. Fade to 0. Okay. We've got our animation speeds in here as well. Okay, cool. What else do we want to do? We want to make it invisible. I don't think we need to await that. And then we want to delete the element. That way we'll see what's going on. Where are you? We need that to collapse on the flip as well. Let's get rid of this one. Ooh. Ooh. Let's go to Frank. That does look pretty good. What about if I delete this one? Is it going to crash horribly? No. But now I need a button to add more elements in. I delete this one. That's pretty pretty good. What about this last one? Is it going to break? No, that's pretty good. What do you think of that? Why Bad Dragon? What did you think? Is that doable? It looks pretty good. I think we need to refactor some of this code, but I'm just wondering if it's the last element, whether we should just fade it out. Why don't we do this? Why don't we say if our selected index is the last one, dot children dot count -1. So if it's our last one, then what we'll do is, excuse me, we will go ahead and we'll just fade it out. So our element to remove is a selected element. I'll fade that to 0. All right, and we await that. So we wait for it to fade. Yeah, so YB Dragon, I don't think there's a need to worry if it's the last one. You could just fade it out prior to removing it since it's covered. Yeah. So you're saying, I think what you're saying is just throw this down here. Because it's not visible anyway. Cool. Absolutely. Why not? Because it won't actually go through any of these iterations anyway. Yeah, cool. I love your optimization. So James, you be deleted. Cool, that worked. Okay, I'm gonna get rid of this when we flip. I think that works nicely, actually. Yeah, cool. Whew, all right. How are we doing? It's what have we got on our list here? Delete animation. We're so close. We could implement the use cell. Okay. First of all, what I want to do is I want to, perhaps when we flip, we should, somewhere we need to close out that animation and reopen that animation. So maybe it's when we flip. What do you think?
Today we're gonna code lots with Mr. Kim, Phil Potts, and oh how amazing you'll be.
Big House 50. Big House 50. Thank you so much for the follow and welcome. We're just trying to do some cool UI in Xamarin.Forms. We're doing pretty well, actually, I'd say. All right, delete that. So I'm just having a look at how this close button interacts with that. So basically when it hits the delete button, it goes and it drops it out. So maybe what we're going to do is we're going to, when we hit the delete button, we close the drop down. We now have a method to animate out our close button, and we say close button entering is false. So it's going to get rid of it. But that also means that when we do the no, we have to bring it back as well. Apparently that animation takes 2 hours to finish according to Dribble's U cell. What does that mean? Oh yeah, I see. That's hilarious, actually. I hadn't noticed that. That's so funny. Yeah, there's so much wrong with the actual data in this. Like, it's 18:21 a.m. So I've kind of ignored all of that and just gone for the animation side of things. All right. So now we're animating out that button. When we come back again, we want to animate that button back in again. Let's see if that's gonna work for us. So hopefully when we delete, cool, it drops out. If we say yes, oh, it's going to delete the cell. If we say no, it comes back in. I think that works. Delete Frank. So that's something pretty cool actually. You can interrupt the animations. So that's what I was talking about earlier. So like if I was a power user of this app, I could either wait for that to come in, or I can actually do this. Anyway, I don't know if we should make them wait. So say no, we come back here, pops back in, beautiful. All right, I'm good with that. That'll do, donkey, that'll do. Now the U cell. So this is the strategy with the U cell. The strategy with the U cell is that it's just a different kind of cell. Now the theory here is that, like, I'm actually thinking about turning this, actually like expanding upon this and turning it into an app. But the idea is that you've got a U cell, which is just your time. And then there's people that you have times for. There's probably also locations as well. So I'm going to bake that into my model, and then I'm going to use a data template selector to provide a different layout for that cell. So that shouldn't be too bad. That should just be fairly standard data template selector stuff. Data template selector. Xamarin.Forms, because I can never remember how to do data template selectors. So the idea with this, if you're not familiar with data template selectors, it's basically a class that allows you to, based on the data, choose one template or another as you go through. And what I really like in the new bindable layouts, you can actually use a data template selector in there as well. So if we have a look at the docs for this, I'm going to sort of copy this. I'm going to create myself a class, which is a data template selector. And this is going to be the time cell data template selector. Just copy this in. So what we're going to have is we're going to have a person template. And we're going to have like an other type, right? I'm going to call it an info template maybe at the moment. And so the idea then is we have a look at the item, and return the right type of cell. Okay. So now what I need to do is I need to have a little bit of data that I can investigate and have a look at it. There's a lot of syntax. Yeah. Lachlan says you love them, but there's a lot of syntax. It's true. Yeah. There is quite a bit going on, but they do serve a really important purpose. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have, I think, a property in here. time info. So I'm going to have like a, yeah, so yeah, data template selectors are awesome. Okay, so we're going to have like a person cell. Person. And for the moment, I'm going to say a location, because you might not want a particular person, might be a location. And maybe there's like a U cell, a special type of cell. And then let's go and create ourselves a property for this bad boy. I always do this with enums. I always end up with the same name. And then what I always do is I do this, which I think is not great. But the idea here, it is frustrating. So I'm going to have a this is going to be a time info type enum. Set a property, reference the time info type. Cool. So now we've got some data that we can work with. I need to put that into my, when I load up my view model with its fake data. So we'll go and create a fake record here. For you. And me is in Melbourne. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll say time info type equals, man, that's nasty. That's a U cell. Everything else could have a default value actually, but let's just do this. Okay, so we've got peeps in there. And then our data template selector wants to have a look at that property. Excuse me. We basically want to say if this is going to be a time info item dot Big House, sorry, I just saw you went GitHub. I need to update that repo link. So the repo link, my apologies for that, is actually going to be here. Big House 50. So there you go. Sorry, I missed something in the chat. If you don't like it saying time info type, when you reference it, could always be using time info type. Yep. A nice little using statement. Yeah, I like it. Okay, if the, oh, what's this doing? Okay. Yeah. More brackets needed. Time info time equals. If it's a person, return person template. Else, return an info template, which I should just call a U template because it's very specific. Okay, get rid of that. Spell return correctly. And probably this, I wonder if this has, was hoping it would have that that using. But we could do that. I'm gonna copy what you have over here. PHIME type. Wowzers. So now I could do this, right? That work? Hey, nice. All right, cool. Okay, so this should be returning the right template. So now what you need to do is, if we go back to the Docker Doodles, is we now need to create a couple of templates. Semicolon line 6. And you're good. You're good. Thank you. Okay, so now what you do is you have this resource dictionary. And this is where it gets a little bit verbose, actually. And you have these data template that sit in there. But that's all right. And then you've got to assign them. What's going on here? Visual Studio's having a hernia. Okay, cool. We're back. Content page dot resources. Get a resource dictionary. Oops. A resource dictionary. And inside of here, we're going to have our 2 data templates. Right, so it's pretty much going to take what's in here. In fact, I may very well be able to do exactly that. Take that. Right, put that inside here. Give it a key. Person time cell. Okay. And then that will sit in there. And then I create another data template for a U time cell, which is going to be the same, except I'm going to get the time cell and I'm going to, something broke there. Let me paste that again. Yep. So why about Dragon? So in theory, since this is in a resource dictionary, could you put those templates in the app XAML and be able to reference them in other pages? Absolutely. You sure could. You sure could. I got to create a U time cell. And for the moment, because I'm lazy, I'm going to copy my time cell and I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to rename this bad boy to U time cell. Sure, why not? And then I'm going to fix up everything that it breaks. U time cell. And probably in here as well. All right, cool. Now, I don't know how much I've broken here. Let's have a look. So we've got a U time cell in here. Okay. And what we should be able to do now is we should be able to say this is a U time cell. And then this would, we don't want to gesture recognizer for that because it doesn't do anything if you click on U. I'm assuming it only does anything if you click on other people because you can't remove U. Maybe, I don't know. Let's just go with that. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to set the background color of this to red. So I know that it's using this cell. Okay. So now what you have to do, once you have these set up, to use it, we now have an item template selector. We've got to set that up as our item template. Okay, so first we're going to create this here. So this is going to be another resource. So we've got some resources to declare that. This is going to be in our controls. What did I call it? Let's have a look. We called it time cell data template selector. Crikeys. Okay, and we'll call this, why not? Let's just call it time cell. No, I don't know. Yep, that'll do. Now this should have a couple of properties on it. Oops. Because we created a couple of properties. Hang on a second. Let me get out of my way. Okay. So if we look, it should have a U template, right? So a U template is going to be that one. And the person template is going to be the other one. And then we can get rid of that code that we copied. That's the end of that. And now we set this is the data template selector for our binding list. Let me just check if everything's cool there. Got too many resource dictionary closing tags. So now I can get rid of this item template. I'm pretty sure. And I can do item, bindable layout.item template selector is our, what did I call it? Time cell data selector. Zoiks. It's a static resource. All right, I think that's all we need to do. Let's see what happens. So what we should have is we should have one red cell, maybe. Booyah. There we go. We've got one red cell. That's the U cell. If I click on the other one, it goes. If I click in this one, it does nothing because the gesture recognizes it only in these other cells, which is, I think, how we want it. All right, let's quickly just design that U cell, and then I might have to call it quits. But I think we're pretty much done. So what's it look like? It looks like U and then a big time. Okay, where's my... All right, this is going to be a lot easier. This is going to basically be... Let me see if I got a picture of it here. I'll put it over to the side. Normally I work on an ultra wide. This is why. Okay, so we have a sun, we have a U, we have a time. So we still got three columns. We'll still have a sun image over there. In the middle column, we're just going to have the header and the add button. Yeah, cool. We can put a header in. That shouldn't be too hard. Okay. What am I doing here? I'm basically want a label. I better create a style for this, I think, because I just know it's going to change. Actually, you know what? I'm in here first and they'll do the style later. That'll be easier. What am I doing? U times cell. Okay, so we should have that information. It's going to be in grid column 1. And then in grid column 2, we're going to have another label. Actually, it's going to look like our other one. So it's actually going to be inside a stack layout. We're going to have a label. It's going to be horizontal here. We're going to have a label, which is going to have our current time. Okay, and we're going to have another label, which at the moment, because we haven't actually got any time functions in it at all, which maybe we can do next stream. Let's just add an AM in here. You know what? I'm going to get rid of this binding. It doesn't need a binding because it just says U. It always says U because it's a U cell. It's almost Friday. I like it. Grid.column equals 2. And then we get rid of all of this stuff. Let's do a background of white. Okay, let's run this so as we can actually make changes as we're going. Bring it over here. Okay, we've got a U cell. Beautiful. Let's create ourselves a style for it. So this is a heaps bigger font. So we'll make this like 60. And this one is not in our main text color. So let's have a U text color. The weather's not great. I don't care, Clint. My wife's coming back. So I'm not solo parenting. So for me, the weather's perfect. I'm just going to grab this color here, see what it is. Okie dokie. Where's our app SAML? We are in our app SAML. Man, it's been a long day. Tornadoes. That sounds terrifying. Tornadoes. I was in a typhoon once in Hong Kong, but I've never been in a tornado. Probably pretty similar. Okay, what am I doing here? So this has got a style. Booyah. So this is pretty much going to be the same. New text color, probably a bit bigger. I don't know, we'll see what happens. Static resource. Okay, cool. Horizontal. This needs to be vertically aligned. Oh, this cell needs to be bigger. That's what needs to happen. That's why it looks cramped. Right, let's make this about double. Oip, that was wrong. All right, let's try this one. Here we go, that's better. Okay, back to our U time cell. It's going to be vertically centered. I don't know a way of actually specifying you want something aligned to the top of the text. So I'm going to cheat and I'm going to say and we also need to give this a margin to the right as well. Cool. And we'll position that U text. So we need one more style. Let's get the name one. Okay, so we've got a U name style. I'm going to use your text color. I think it's a bit bigger. Can't spell static resource. Okay, fair enough. Ooh, what on earth is that? I don't know what that window is. I'm going to change those margins in both of these. That looks nicer. All right, how's that looking? Let me check the chat. The way I've always done it is put both labels in a grid that has multiple rows and do a row span on the large one and a vertical alignment of start on the smaller one. Oh yeah, okay, I get it. Yep. So basically, yeah, yep. Okay, let's have a look. Excuse me. Let's delete this. Hey, it even works. Can't delete you. You are not deletable. Whoop. Lovely. All right. I'm going to do one last thing before I finish up, I think. So what do you think? I think that's pretty much the U cell, right? YB Dragons, look at you being a power user, interrupting my own animations. Yeah. It's funny how when you use something like this and you've got animations, you're like, oh man, these are taking forever. Turn off animations. All right, navigation bar. I'm just going to do the simple part of the navigation bar, which is basically we can just go and set a style that should work, right? I did this on one of my other ones. Right, so I've got this one here. Let's put another implicit style. I've got some code. Where is it? Here. Ooh. Okay. Wait on. I'm just having a look at the comment there. I noticed the cells go from darker shade to a lighter one. Am I up for it? I don't know if I'm up for it today because it sounds a little tricky. Oh yeah, you're right. That is darker than this one. So I bet you it alternates. I feel like there's going to do that, there's going to end up being some code which is going to have a look at its position in the list and then modify its background color. That would be my guess. Maybe it's because it's nighttime. Yeah, Why Bad Dragon also said the same thing. So I haven't actually put any time stuff in here, so I'm not going to bother with that one right at the moment. I think I'll just get the color of this. It's a color I would never choose, but it actually looks really good with this design. So if I put that in there and then put the page inside a navigation page, we should end up with that. Something like that. Let's see what happens. We need to give it a title, don't we? What's this app called? Unzone. Oh, that's a UWP thing. That's all right. I wonder what's going to happen when we run this on an iPhone. I'm going to give this a quick go. This will be amazing if it just works. Okay, that doesn't completely stink. That does. I wonder if that has to do with the height of the navigation bar. Yeah, that is interesting, isn't it? I wonder if it's because we have not told it how big this cell is. Although that doesn't really make sense. Let's have a look. Let's see if we can find something quickly. So we said it's got an... It's not in there, it's in our... Right, we can get rid of this code. We don't need this code. Let's get our background. Let's just... Actually, I've got live reload. I should just use that. Clinton says, can you anchor it to the bottom of the Frank cell location? Let me have a look. Frank cell. So what's interesting here is it's positioning the fake cell correctly. Have I got the fake cell? Let me have a look here. Yeah, so that should be a value of 80. Yep. And then the delete drop down is in row 1. So that's our 3 drop downs. They're all aligning nicely. I don't understand how that... How many... How's that not working? So the time cell is in 0. You know what? No. I've had problems with... Am I setting the translation in code when I show the drop down? I don't think so. I'm just doing a clean and rebuild here. Because I've noticed that sometimes things don't take. Sure, that's not the problem here, but because, oh, hang on. Oh, wait on, these are in grid row, just grid row 1. That's in grid row 0. Yeah, and then this is in grid row 2. Okay, that's good. So I was freaking out about my grids, whether I had the right number of rows specified. How is... Maybe I am. Maybe I'm setting the translation. That's the close button. Okay. Open the drop down. Well, let's just check here. Position the drop down. So this is basically where I'm saying position the container rect, which is the front side, which is my container. And it's positioning that at the right spot because the first element in this is that. Okay. So let's come back down here. Parent bounds top. I wonder if it's not getting the right size. You know what I mean? Okay, let's check open drop down. See, open drop down doesn't translate anything up or down. Okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to my main page just for giggles. I'm going to set this to a bigger value. So when I set the cell bigger, it's still overlapping it a bit. Interesting. Okay, I want to try this. What's the height of a status bar? Anyone know what the height of a status bar is? 20? 44? 22? 22, maybe? Hang on. 58? Lies. Hang on a second. It's interesting that it doesn't happen on UWP. Mind you, I do suck at absolute layout, so it's possible that I don't know how to use absolute layouts. No, it's not that height. I don't get it. Is what you use when you need to figure out sizes. Ooh. Oh, nice. I've got a different one that I like to use as well, but that's an awesome resource. I'm gonna save that puppy. All right, the top's in the right place. Yeah, it's a really cool link. Hang on, I'll see if I can find you one that I used to use. second. Come on, where is it? Of course, I can't find it now. Ah, this one. I think it's this one. So this one does a similar job. It's like all the sizes. It's like a cheat sheet for basically how, you know, all the sizes of different things, different measurements on stuff as well. So that's a really cool resource as well. Okie dokie. Now, this one's got me stumped. Yeah, I feel that it might not be returning what I think as well. I also feel that this backside has too many rows in it. Okay, let's have a quick look at what it's returning for us. But what I kind of don't understand, why bad dragon, yeah, maybe let's just try that. Let's just try exactly as you say. Let's just change it, not to the top, just to the Y. See if that makes a difference. But kind of what I don't get here is that cell that's being displayed, that pop-up is 3 rows. It's got the fake cell, the delete and the edit button, and then the info cell, and it's all within one grid, and it's positioning it at the right place. It's like its height is wrong. You know what I mean? So what I'm saying is this here is all one grid with 3 rows, right? So it's positioning at the right top. It's just for some reason it's collapsing this cell up some. Let me come back up here. Here we go. So there's the time cell. There's then these 2 here, row 1, column 1. There's this one, which is row 1. Sorry, was that row 1, column 0? Row 1, column 1. And then this will be in row 2, column 0, 0, 1, 2. I'm going to try something else. All right. What do you think? If maybe if I set if I set the explicit height, maybe. Let's try it. Yeah. Okay. Cool. 240. I don't trust this hot reload. Let me. The row definition, the row height is 80. What would happen if I put in a box view here? Grid inside a grid. It's worst things have happened. Let's just put that in the first one and we'll give it a height request of 80. And a width request of 80. Yeah, that's a good point. Why bad dragon? Absolutely right. If I put a breakpoint there, let's inspect some values. All right, let me just check which one's doing first. Front side, cool. All right. So let's print out drop down container rect. X is 0, Y is 80. I can't remember which cell I clicked on. The height of 262 though, that's weird, isn't it? Because it shouldn't have a height of 262 because it should be 240. No? Should be multiples of 80. Yeah, I would have thought. Okay. Okay, something bad. But also, let's have a look at it isn't positioned yet. Ooh. I wonder whether there's a problem that I can't. It's got to have had time to lay it out beforehand. I don't know. Excel has a height of 80. A height of 80. puzzling. Very, very puzzling. Look at that code again. Yeah, parent.bounds. Yeah. $80 to $160. Yeah, that's right. Let's have a look at drop down height. Ooh. So we'll drop down to bounds. $240. Yeah, $240. Wow. Ooh. Height plus 22. That is the height, isn't it? Not the Y. So a rectangle. Top is 80. So weird. Top is 80. The Y. Plus 22. You are so right. You are so right. That's exactly why it's 262. Because I threw that in before. Still doesn't make any sense to me why fake cell bounds. That's it. Location 00. Height of 80. What is our no, we don't have a delete cell. Delete. Does make sense to me. So, okay, let's do this. Let's get rid of that value of 22. YB Dragon, I don't remember what was in there before parents.bounds.y. Was it parents.bounds.bottom? In here. Yeah, that's right. Sorry. Yes, it was top. Yep. So bounce the top, the width. Right. See, if I actually just went and hard coded a value in here, right? Because we know that each cell, let's just try this. We know that each cell or this row, oh, hello. What's that? I just put that in for debugging reasons. Right. If I was to just say like 240 and make the height of it 240, like forget this, let's just make it 240. There is a reason I'm doing these cleans. I've noticed that my iOS, for whatever reason, doesn't always redeploy the latest code. All right, I'm going to have to go shortly. So I'll try this one thing. And then I might have to put an issue in to fix it. A meeting at 2. So that's unusual, isn't it? So that's basically, so I put in a yellow box, if you recall. Somewhere here. I said make that 80. Does it work the same on a different one? Let's try it. I'm sure there's a reason for it. I just don't know what it is. Delete the app from the simulator. Well, I'm launching it on a new simulator that what do I select? 6 Plus. So I haven't launched it on here before, I don't think. No. Same. Bummer. So close and yet so far. Let me get rid of this yellow one. This doesn't do us any good. I'm going to launch it on Android. My bad, Dragon. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, is it an Android thing? Let's try it. What am I doing? Crikey's. All right. The real question you should be asking is, will it even deploy to Android? Could be due to the navigation bar. It could be. Anything's possible. I don't think we ran it before we added that though. Let me run this on Android. If I run this on Android and it works now, fine. Then I think it's an iOS specific thing. And it could be, you know, iOS with their crazy different layouts. You think that width there? Maybe. All right. Oh, Android. Come on, Android. That is so true. iOS. Android used to be the hard one. It still is, actually. What are we after? We're after, oh God, Visor. Get my device sorted here. Okay, let's try. This is a physical device. This is I don't use Android emulators very often. I use physical devices. So this is actually my phone. Yeah, so Andre, what still doesn't fit with you is that it's the same container and the top of the container is correctly aligned. Exactly. Wouldn't you know it? On Android, it's in the right spot. All right. Yeah, that's what happens when you go off the bottom of the screen, by the way. You're asking about that earlier on. I don't know what Clinton's pinging me about. That's a physical device. Yes, it was. That's why I just got a a ping from Clinton. Not emulated. All right. All right. You know what I'm going to do, because I've got to go to a meeting. So I'm gonna have to call it quits. I'm gonna have to put an issue in for this one. Yeah, absolutely. So let me do this. Create an issue for iOS not rendering pop-up in the correct place. All right, but let's go have a look at it in a happy place, shall we? Just to finish off, I think we're pretty much done. So let's run it back here on UWP. I'd say with a few small tweaks, we're pretty much done. Got our button. We've got our flipperoonie. Beautiful. All right. Well, guys, I'm gonna call it quits. I'll push this code into GitHub. If anyone wants to have a look, otherwise I'll do it as well. So I'm gonna sign off. I'm gonna see if there's anyone streaming. Maybe we can raid. Let's have a look. Let me just. What are you in the mood for? Probably mostly people are in the mood for sleep, or maybe that's just me. We have Talk to Me Gooseman. Should we go and raid on Talk to Me Gooseman? He's a member of the live coders. So why don't we do that? It's always nice to say hello. Okay. Fantastic. Okay, guys. Well, thank you, thank you very much. Let's go say hi to Talk to Me Gooseman, and I'll see you next time. Ciao. Oh, wait on. I'm gonna hit the raid button first. Let's give him a raid. Okay, bye for now.